Israel and United Arab Emirates have entered into an unprecedented deal and established full diplomatic relations. Interestingly, it has been announced by the United States, which has brokered the peace between the two. What are the implications? Who is happy, who is not? Let me talk about the strategic ramifications of this major international relations development in details. I am Rajeev Sharma. UAE has become the third Arab nation to establish full diplomatic ties with Israel. And what has happened yesterday, 14th of August, it is in a way reminiscent of Camp David agreement brokered by the US between Israel and Egypt in 1978. The following year, 1979, Egypt had become the first Arab nation to recognize Israel and establish full diplomatic ties with Israel. 15 years later, Jordan became the second Arab nation, 1994, to establish full diplomatic ties with Israel. The implication of this is very clear. The importance of the UAE Israel peace deal is very clear from the very fact that it has taken Israel 26 long years, over a quarter century, to find a third Arab nation with which it has established full diplomatic relations. That is the UAE. Now, first of all, let us talk about the major players, international players. And I will give you my thoughts about US. The implications. Who benefits, who loses? The US, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Palestine, then Turkey, Pakistan. So, let's start with the US. The Trump administration, which is already has gone hammer and tongs against its own NATO allies, traditional NATO allies. It has isolated European allies. It has angered many other allies, across the continents, for many reasons. Japan for some reason, Saudi Arabia for another reason, and so on and so forth. So the Trump administration, now that the presidential elections are inching closer, which are scheduled in November, so Trump administration can claim a diplomatic victory, a diplomatic breakthrough. And Trump administration will obviously trumpet it for a major diplomatic move which will further isolate Iran. Now let's talk about Iran. Definitely, Iran will be much interested in knowing what is happening, and it is a direct stakeholder. But Iran and UAE, it's a normal relationship. Iran doesn't have much reservations with UAE and vice versa. Iran and UAE have normal trade relations and business visits to and fro. So Iran is not really much affected by this, except for the fact that Israel is a declared and a sworn enemy of Iran, and in fact, Iran and Israel are declared and sworn arch enemies of each other. Both want the other to be vanquished from the map of the world. So strong is the hatred. Now, who has a problem? Problem is mainly Turkey. UAE's main problem is not Iran. UAE's main rival is Turkey. And in fact, Tayyip Erdogan, the Turkish president, has today indicated that they are going to close their embassy in Abu Dhabi. So, obviously, Turkey is very much peeved with this move. Why? Because Turkey is vying for Islamic world leadership. Turkey has very ambitious goals. And because of this, traditionally, the Islamic world's leadership has been with the Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia and UAE are very close. Interestingly, Saudi Arabia has kept quiet over this development. And it is highly unlikely that UAE would have gone even an inch ahead without the acquiescence, without the silent approval of the Saudis. So, the Saudis must have egged on UAE, because this way Turkey is being isolated. So it's UAE is acting as a sort of a Saudi's proxy weapon vis-a-vis Turkey. Now, having said that, while Saudi Arabia has maintained a golden silence on this issue, not criticized, not welcomed, but not criticized is also sort of a tacit approval. But it is not so that you see, Saudi Arabia is a close ally of the US. But despite that, Saudi Arabia has just trashed the US moves of an Israel and Palestine truce. So why the Saudi Arabians have kept quiet? Because of the Palestinian issue. Now, because of this, the Palestinians are really very angry. Palestinians describe it, President Mahmoud Abbas, his officials have described it as a betrayal. Hamas, a major outfit, political and armed militia, it has described it as a stab in the back of Palestinians. Now, let me come in the last to Pakistan. Pakistan is caught between the devil and the deep sea. Pakistan cannot say yes, Pakistan cannot say no. Pakistan cannot sacrifice its major foreign policy agenda, that is the Palestine. And having said that, the current Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, his first wife, Jemima Goldsmith, was a Jew. Because she's the daughter of a Jewish billionaire. And at that time also, Imran Khan was really heavily criticized for having sold himself to Jews. So friends, I hope that for civil services aspirants, this video should be very useful, and Do like this video and subscribe to my channel, Rajeev Kishkindha. Thank you.